It's a pleasure to be here. I'm going to kind of take advantage of that jet lag experience everybody seems to be having. I went to bed about 1 a.m. and woke up at 3 and could not go back to sleep. Tons of stuff at the office. And I thought I was good until I went to use the restroom real quick before the presentation and kind of walked in the stall, and I look in there and I think, you know, men's rooms don't usually have a trash can. There's something not right. So anyway, that's a little bit off this morning. Maybe we'll see if we can catch up. So my name's David Gengler. I am the co-founder and CEO of NOKE. Along with my other co-founder, Cameron Gibbs, we started the company with the hopes of really ridding the world of keys and simplifying consumers' lives by creating locks that require no keys, thus the name. I want to spend a few minutes telling you about our company as well as our transition, as Penelope pointed out, from a B2C company to a B2B company. Don't let profits get in the way. That's something I'll spend a minute about in just a few more minutes. So as we launched our first product, it was the NOKE padlock. Walk over here. We launched it on Kickstarter, and we said, you know, that there's got to be a better way to interact with our locks. It's an old business. It's been around for a long time. Lots of, you know, kind of stodgy, speaking of, as Kate pointed out, the old white dudes wearing suits. That's kind of the lock space. It gave us a lot of opportunity to do something different. So we came up with this, the NOKE padlock. It's beautiful, it's strong, it's elegant, it works amazingly well, and it's simple. We've kind of built our company around some of those key values. While it's sitting, doing its job, it's not using any power. But as a user, if I want to interact with my, you know, item that I've got locked up, I wake it up, and at that point, it starts looking for permission from the smartphone gives it permission, and it opens. It's got a replaceable battery, lasts for over a year, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. You've probably seen some of this before, but what we really focused on early on is we thought, man, this is going to change consumers' lives. These consumers are going to be able to get into their items much more quickly and just, you know, stop losing keys, right? Going back to the tracker for the very first presentation that we had today, you know, losing keys is a serious issue. So that was our thought. I think our background drove some of this consumer thinking, right? We're all consumers. Cameron and I in particular, my first product that I created was a keyboard for the iPad. Created it in my kitchen, thought it would be a really cool idea, patented it, walked it over to the guys at Zag. Cameron actually was the guy there, and they said, oh my gosh, that's amazing, we can probably sell a bunch. Long story short, we all made a bunch of money selling a bunch. Cameron and I left, and this became our next product. So we launched on Kickstarter. We raised $650,000 for the padlock, another $400,000 for the U-lock. Everybody and their brother's calling us up, saying, look, we've got to have this. You know, we had Apple, Samsung, Lenovo, everybody we could possibly think of, and we thought, this is awesome. This is super easy, right? Just like our other products. We won a bunch of awards, Red Dot Awards, CES Awards, you name it. NOKE was kind of, you know, front and center on a lot of things going on. Again, the confidence was there. Get through Kickstarter, we get it into retail, and then it just kind of sells a little bit slower than we expected. That's really frustrating. So we went and we started looking at, you know, what are we doing right, what are we doing wrong, and frankly, when we first started, there wasn't a sense of doing anything wrong, right? When you're winning awards and you're raising this money, we must be killing it. But sales were not supporting that mentality. And so we started looking, you know, what's happening? Is there something that we're missing? So we started listening to our customers and the people that were calling us. We still received a lot of inquiries. We were selling pretty well online, but we just couldn't find, you know, what it was. What is NOKE? How could we sell more units of NOKE in Best Buy? How could we sell more units of NOKE at Lowe's and Home Depot? And that was what our thinking was all about. It was about how could we sell it in the wrong places. We didn't realize we were in the wrong place at that time. So as we started to evaluate our business, some things started to become pretty evident to us. The customers calling us were asking for features that we hadn't even thought of, right? They're saying, well, I want to use this at our airport. I want to use this in our hospitality business. I want to use it at cell towers. I want to use it for a utility company. And these were large businesses saying, you know, if you can, you know, add these features to your product, we'll buy 10,000 units. We'll buy 100,000 units. And all of a sudden we realized, Home Depot sucks. Best Buy sucks. The margins are terrible, right? If they don't sell through, they want to send them back. So I think there's a lot of businesses, many of you that are looking for businesses that seem obviously consumer, maybe they are, but for some of you, if you haven't really looked at the B2B side, you're missing out. So it took us some time, and I don't want to stand up here and act like a hero, like we had it all figured out right away. It took a while for us to get here. Initially, think about it. We're selling a padlock that costs $70. You can buy a padlock for $5 at Home Depot. So those people that were buying it on Kickstarter, similar to the conversation earlier, when you think those Kickstarter guys are your future, they aren't always. They are evidence that your product is valuable, but not necessarily that it's going to sell for a long time. So we're selling to this guy over here, this Kickstarter that's saying, yeah, I love new technology. I'm an early adopter. I'm going to spend $70 for something I could buy for $5. But he wasn't our future. He was a guy that would really buy anything that looked really sexy and shiny and opened with his phone, right? Meanwhile, we go to these trade shows where you've got these locksmiths. We did our best to try and, show our older white demographic here. Which, by the way, if you've ever been to a lock trade show, it would blow your mind. Bunch of old white dudes in suits. It's really interesting. Suits at a trade show, I'm serious. They're not your nice suits, but it's a suit nonetheless, and that's how it gives you a sense for really the space in which we're playing. One of the first times I asked a guy, like, okay, so I want to send you some information about what our product does. He's looking for a flyer, right? And we're like, we don't have any flyers. Can I just email you? And I'm not kidding. The guy says, I don't have any email. So we realize as we're making this transition, crap, ads on Facebook are not going to cut it, right? I mean, so think about that. We're throwing money at Facebook ads. We're throwing stuff into Target. That's not where this guy's buying his locks. So again, took some time. What were the warning signs? So number one, as I've mentioned already, the sales were lower than expected. You'll know this. You'll know this right away. I don't think you need any sort of advanced metrics to know if your product's really blowing it out or not. Number two, we had some investors that were starting to say, is this really the right area for you? And these were investors that were really focused, I thought at least, on consumer products, but they had already started to see the future of our business. In addition to those guys, we had, this was an interesting deal. We were at in Engadget. This was 2014, their insert coin contest. And one of the moderators was asking us, hey, are you a B2B company or a B2C company? And at the time, I said, well, both, right? I mean, duh, why would I want to choose one or the other? That seems silly. And the guy kind of chuckled, like, yeah, you'll figure it out eventually. I didn't realize. And as a startup company, as a co-founder, you've got that sense of, I can do this. And whenever somebody says you can't, it's almost, for me at least, it's it drives me to want to prove those guys wrong. And so the more people said I couldn't do it, the more I thought, no, I can, watch me. Again, not fully realizing that they were just really helping by kind of sharing some of their real life experiences with me. And of course, the inquiries, that was really the key. When people were calling us up, they were saying, look, this is where we want to use it. Please listen to me and stop getting so focused on Home Depot. So I started asking our advisors, what can we do? How do we do this? What does this look like? Many of you have been working with Hardware Club for a while. Some of you, maybe it's newer. In fact, by show of hands, how many of you are members of the Hardware Club? I'm just curious. So that leaves a few who aren't or maybe considering. I can't stress enough how valuable of an asset they've been to us, both from a funding perspective, but also they've got probably one of the most active Slack channels. So many things. How are you going to get into your shipping? How are you going to find the right manufacturer? So rely on a lot of these resources that are surrounding you every day. Many of them are free, and the advice you can get by listening can be really valuable. And I can't stress that enough. Make sure you listen to these people that have done this 5, 6, 7 times over. And once you make your decision, as with all the others in business, be decisive, be bold, be quick, be committed, right? Just get this done. I say that because we weren't. So we were selling product. This kind of takes you back to the title of my presentation. We were selling product and we were making some money. So when Cameron and I sat down and said, should we Should we stop selling to consumers so we can focus on businesses? And we thought, well, if we do that, well, how are we going to pay the bills? How are we going to keep the guys employed in our office? That was a really tough thing to deal with. So we said, you know what? Let's just do both, kind of sticking to that Engadget conversation. So let me show you a little bit of what our transition literally looked like. This is our website. So over here, you've got our original website, very consumery, looks like something, your traditional, I want to sell something in an Apple store. And then kind of during our transition, and it's still there, so you could Google it, just NOKE.com. It basically just says, so what are you? Are you a person or are you a business? And then we'll tell you the story that you need to hear that's applicable to you. I mean, you really couldn't be any less sure of what your business should be as to ask that question right at the very beginning. That's problematic. So the final transformation is going to be happening here over the next couple weeks. And just right from the get-go, we're a business company. We sell 95% of our locks directly to businesses. They're buying in large quantities. They want special features. They want it to do different things than a consumer does, right? You think about a connected lock. What makes it so amazing is the ability to share keys, the ability to track where it is, the ability to monitor it, the ability to revoke a key from a guy that gets fired. None of those features are all that useful for a guy that's using it on his same gym locker at the same gym at the same time every single day, right? So once again, the feature set, what made it so valuable was lost on consumers, yet game-changing for businesses. So we started looking at, okay, what is it that makes our product unique, and how is it going to impact our new target market? So we kind of went through all the features. I won't bother you with that. Let's just say it's pretty awesome, and they love it, okay? And then so we started asking, okay, how is it going to benefit those guys? What features, what are these new features going to do for their business, right? It's a new sales approach. Then, hey, this will save you 5 seconds at the gym. And we feel like the transformation's complete. The sales have been massively focused. We just had our first major deal a couple months ago. I'll tell you just a little bit about that. So this was a self-storage company that said, we love what you're doing. We love your technology. We love what you're doing on the back end, and your locks are amazing. But we have a special proposition for you. If you can make this work, it'll make us all rich. So, okay, I'm listening. And they said, your large self-storage operators have as many as 1.5 million doors. If you can figure this out, the company that is the largest in the U.S., that is less than 2% of the market, has 1.5 million doors. Let's see if we can make this work. So I think, okay, you got my attention. We can figure this out. So we start talking about what they want, and it's really kind of a custom access control piece. So if you look at your average office building, you take your key card, you touch it to the wall, the door opens. And they say, we want that experience, but we want it in self-storage. We want a custom type of lock. And we want it to all be battery powered. None of this 12-volt hardwired stuff that you see in buildings. This needs to be battery powered because retrofitting that many doors with all the cables would cost, a fortune. So if you could do this, we can sell it for you. I'll try and give you the shortest version possible. After a couple months of just from scratch building a new piece of hardware, prototyping it, putting on the buildings, getting 400 units to work amazing for a couple months, they wrote us a multi-million-dollar check and said, once you have the shipping version done and tested for 3 months, we'll give you a check for $6 million. And that's not revenue. That is just straight profits. This isn't sales. This isn't, okay, great, now you got cost of goods. We essentially said, fine, you can have the self-storage business and we'll take a bunch of cash. So a lot different than your Best Buy sale, a lot more customized. But every morning we wake up, we get some business, large business, Accenture, saying, okay, we need this customer that needs it to do lockout, tagout, or we have this customer that needs it to do this. Can you do it? And so we're building a business now that can do that. I think the Tracker guys are a few years ahead of us. In fact, props to those guys. I was at Zag when they came and pitched it to us as, hey, this would be a really cool product. Cameron and I were in that room. We're like, yeah, that would be a pretty sweet product. We worked it up the chain, and they turned it down. So I think in the long run, it's probably best for those guys. It was probably a pain at the time, but I think they're doing a lot better now without Zag. All right, so what can you do? I want to try and take this conversation less about me and more about your business. If you decide, hey, we need to make that move from B2C to B2B, what questions can you ask yourself to help you be more effective at that? What are things that maybe you haven't thought about that you need to have figured out before that happens? So number one, is this going to be a complete switch? Again, in our case, it absolutely has to be. Our customers are businesses. They're the ones buying locks. I had a conversation with one of you last night. Their business is a little bit different. The guys that make the little flick smart button, awesome product. I think it can do both. So if your company can do both, great. Figure it out and find a way to do it successfully and do it well. If not, make that move, make it quick, and move on. Two, is your product ready for the demands of commercial use? Is it tough enough, right? Have you worked out the kinks? Kickstarters are incredibly patient with crappy products. They almost expect it, right? They expect it to be late, they expect it to suck, and they hope to be the guy that makes it better. In fact, I think they just want to get in the comments, like, yeah, this is why your product sucks. But if you do what I tell you, it's going to be amazing. Businesses aren't that way, right? Businesses, it has to work well, and it has to make them look like they're geniuses for picking your product. So three, who are your target customers? Figure that out. It's different than probably what you expected. Start looking in different places, find the TAMs, right, the total addressable market, and figure out where you need to be deploying your resources. Four, what is your go-to-market strategy, right? That's kind of the resulting impact of number three. How are you going to do this? Where are you going to deploy capital? Who are the people you need on your team to get there? It's not the same people. If I'm trying to sell into Home Depot or Lowe's or Target or Apple, there is a buyer who basically just says yes or no, and you need a person who can talk to this person and convince him to say yes. That's pretty much the conversation. It isn't a deployment strategy, it's a simple yes or no. Five, do you need distributors, integrators, or others in the field to help you with your products, right? So for us, there are some people that we need to work with. Locksmiths still have a lot of the relationships. Architects still design buildings and they spec certain locks. So we needed to figure that process out. It isn't all going to be direct. A good chunk of it will. We love that. The margins are significantly better. But if your field requires it, figure that out and find out how product is moving within your space already. Is your pricing model still valid? So this was interesting for us. By switching to business, we were actually able to raise our pricing. Businesses are a lot less price conscious. They want quality. They don't care as much about price. But that caused some conflict as we were doing that transition. So as we were still on Amazon, you'd have some bozo buys a couple of our products and then they'll sell it for $10 less than what's listed on Amazon. So I'm having a conversation with a business that wants to buy 5,000 units. They're saying, you're telling me $89 with a 10% discount, but I can buy it on Amazon for $59. Crap. That's a problem. So we have completely removed NOKE from any other channel than direct from us or through some resellers or distributors. We need the ability to control pricing. I mean, we could tell them all day long, great, try and buy it, you'll get 5, and then the price is going to go up, but you don't really want to be having that conversation with a large organization. So be thinking of things like this. 7, do you need to reallocate your marketing budget? Again, like us, obviously, putting ads on Facebook wasn't going to work, so we needed to tweak that. We need to do things differently. Are you attending the right trade shows? So this was interesting, right? I love going to CES. I've been going there since 2011 was my first one, and every year since. It's awesome. It's awesome to have people come up and tell you your product is amazing, your team is amazing, all these different things. But there's not a lot of lock buyers there. So we started going to lock trade shows. A bunch of lock companies giving each other high fives. That's still not our buyers, right? That's our competition. So now we're going even further to our end user conferences. So consider that. We're going to cell tower trade shows. We're going to trade shows for utility companies, and talk about boring. They really are boring, but that's where the sales are happening for us. So be smart. It's expensive to go to CES, and if it's not reaching your target customer, you're wasting time and money. Let's get the last 4. So should you focus more on business development or sales? This has been another critical discussion for us to have, right? Sales is a very repeatable process. Somebody he makes outbound calls. There's going to be a certain amount of them that are successful, and then you have this funnel, and you end up with a very measurable return. Or you put money out there into AdWords, whatever sort of marketing things, and you measure a very repeatable process. Business development's a lot different. For some of you that are maybe kind of new in your space and you're trying to figure your way through, Business development really is creating custom solutions for people. So the discussion earlier with Tracker, right? So dealing with Cross, when they said, hey, we can make your pens better by incorporating our technology, that is a business development discussion. It requires work, requires time, but can really move a lot of product. That's a different process and requires different people. So figure out if your team needs that type of person. 10, do you need to develop custom solutions for large enterprises? For us, we did. Some products, maybe the product is identical as you sell to businesses, so this may be a point that's not necessary for your business. For ours, it was a very significant discussion, and it's taken us some time to make sure we've got that nailed. Number 11, are you prepared for a long sales cycle? This part really stinks. It takes longer to sell to a business, right? If Apple says, yes, we want it, I mean, we're sitting here, I'm not sure we are now, but with the robot earlier, right? So once Apple says, yes, we want it, it is a sprint to get that to them as fast as possible, and before you know it, it's on shelves. I saw that with our keyboards. It was amazing. It's fun. And then you talk to a business, and there's a guy that says, yeah, it's great. Send me 5. I'll test them out for a few months. City of Calgary, well, we want to make sure it'll make it through the winter outside. Oh, crap. That sucks. And so you wait, and you wait. It took a whole year before they called us back this summer. So, okay, we're ready to go. And there was a lot of approval processes internally as well. Even if there isn't a lot of testing, there are people along the chain that have to say yes. So that really kind of gets me to number 12, which is, are you supporting this person? At the end of the day, the person within the company is going to be your biggest advocate. If they're buying a large dollar, a large volume, large dollar order, it isn't one of these things they ask a guy, in the corner, hey, should we buy these locks? It's just 10 million bucks. What do you think? It's not that kind of conversation, right? It is a process. Furthermore, that guy's taking a risk. Here's the thing. Most people in a business will get all sorts of crap if they make a bad decision, and often get very little if they make good decisions, right? If our product does well for that company, it's unlikely man, I'm so glad John picked that NOKE stuff. He's a genius, right? I mean, it's like in a commercial you see, but that's not real life. Real life is one of our locks don't work, and like, damn it, John, that's the stupidest decision you've ever made, right? We've got 10,000 locks not working. So figure it out. You need to support that guy. How do you make sure that in his first meeting he looks like a rock star? How do you make sure that as you deploy the product, it functions well, and that it integrates in their systems in a way that he is a genius for picking your product? That's an important part of it, because for a consumer, if it doesn't work, he'll return it, right? And there's some bad word, but that's pretty small. If you blow up, a 10,000 unit sale because you didn't support him, that's gonna cost you a lot of money. So I appreciate you taking the time. It's been a lot of fun for me so far. I'm looking forward to the afternoon. Whether your business makes the change from B2C to B2B really depends a lot on your product, what you want to do. So hope at least one or two of the things I mentioned will be useful. If not, let me at least end with this. You're going to have some setbacks. This is difficult. Don't quit. Be persistent. Be patient and work your butt off. And again, don't quit. Thanks for your time.